Kameran är lite tiltad. Hela den ser ut att vara lite övre delen, precis. Där någonstans ser bättre ut.
So, what's your advice to young boys and girls out there that want to become stronger?
I would say... My name is JOSEF ERIKSSON. I'm 28 years old, from Sweden, from a town called Örebro. I've been training now for over 14 years. When I was 9 years old, I got a hip problem that affected me tremendously when I was a child, and it will affect me for the rest of my life, more or less. That resulted in me having a hard time playing and doing activities, physical activities. So my father wanted to do something for me so I could do something with my body, something physical. So he introduced me to strength training, something that I had a big interest in from, well, my entire life, watching strongman and Eurosport and powerlifting for sometimes when that was on. So when I was 9, I actually got my first strength training session. It was primarily upper body because I had a hard time walking. So I did bench press and, you know, every like a bodybuilding workout, maybe a dozen exercises, and I remember training for 1 hour and a half, and I was so exhausted afterwards that I went to sleep in the middle of the day for like 2 hours. I never really got real hooked after that, but that was the start. But when I was from 12 to 13 years old, I had actually the home gym in my own room. So I trained, sometimes it was 3, 4, 5 sessions a week, and maybe not even a session in 2-3 months. And it was often when friends were over, they wanted to try their max in bench press or try some biceps curls or something. So I got to show them, and also when I showed them what I could lift. So I actually have I know my bench press PR from when I was 9 till now with I'm 28. But under this time, from when I was 9 till 13, I still struggled with my hip. I had tremendous problems walking around. I was often on crutches for many years. During these years, I gained a lot of weight, and my main interest was watching movies and drawing, and also eating a lot of bad food, junk, mainly candy, and everything that was sweet, actually. So if you don't move, if you sit still and eat a lot, you will gain a lot of weight, and that's what I did. And that combined with me often on crutches, couldn't move. I got taxi driving me to school and home from school because I couldn't walk that distance on crutches. So it was about 5-6 years that I mainly sat on my butt. When I was 14, I really got bit by the iron bug, and that's actually when my strength journey started. I trained before that, but I often said that when I was 14, that was when I started training and never stopped. The bench press was obviously one of my favorite exercises because that didn't involve the lower body. So it was easy for me to practice that exercise, but I also did a lot of deadlift, stiff-legged deadlift. That was good for my hip and also my back, because my back took a lot of beating from a bad hip. So that was one of the lower body exercises I did a lot of as I was young, or a child, you might say. And at this point, I trained in my garage at home with my dad and a buddy. And the bench press started to take off. I wasn't natural in the bench press. What I say, it took me over a year of training to reach 100 kilos, actually, 220 pounds. So I had a hard time struggling. And the thing is, when I reached 100 kilos, that was also my body weight. And I had stopped gaining weight around when I was 14 because I did so much strength training and tried to not gain more weight. So I kept my weight on the same. When I was getting closer to 100 kilos body weight, I actually stopped stepping on the scale because I didn't want to know the number on there. So I think it was half a year maybe, I didn't weigh myself. But when I weighed myself, I knew that I had lost weight because I trained harder, tried to not eat so much candy, and I actually started running a bit. Running didn't come natural for me. I have been often on crutches, couldn't walk properly and such. So, but when I started to strength train for real when I was 14, that helped me and helped my body to get around better. But the running, as fat kid, wasn't easy. So I couldn't run even a couple of 100 meters at best. And I took it from there. So the next time I went out for a run, I tried to get farther than I did the last time. And that was my method for running, and I kept it up. And after, I think it was 6 weeks, I lost 10 kilos, around to 22 pounds, and was able to run 10K. The development in running for me, the secret for it was actually running volume. I ran a lot, so some days 2-3 times, and kept it on for 6 weeks. And when I ran 10 kilometers, it wasn't in any great time or so. It was just me being able to run 10 kilometers from having a hard time some days walking 100 meters. So it was a great development for me. Why I actually started running was not primarily because I wanted to lose weight and look better. It was because I was going to start to compete in bench press. Everything in this story comes down to the bench press. So I realized I was too heavy and too weak to compete at that level that I thought I was able to compete at. So I lost 10 kilos, did my first bench press competition, and from that it took off. So in my first competition, when I was 16 years old, I did 102.5 kilos in the bench press. That's approximately 225 pounds, 2 plates. And weighed in the 198 class, minus 90 kilos. So that was my first competition, and so I lost 10 kilos for that competition. And then it took off, started competing, wanted to get down in the weight classes, went down in the 82.5 kilo class and later on to the 75 kilo class, and competing at the Teenage Nationals. At my first Teenage Nationals, after a year competing, I managed to do 112.5 kilos. So in approximately a year I had gained 10 kilos in my bench press, and that wasn't starting off with a bang. My bench really actually took off when I was 17, turning 18, and that was at the same time. It was the next Teenage Nationals that I won and set a new national record for teenagers under 75 kilos. I managed to bench press 136 kilos that competition. And after that, it just went on, starting to gain strength. In maybe a year after the Teenage Nationals I won, I started to gain weight again, slowly getting up to the same weight that I started at, around 100 kilos, where I am at now. And took off, went on the junior national team in the bench press worlds in 2015, and in 2017 I competed at the worlds as an open lifter and finished second, got a silver medal. And the same year, 2017, I won the European Championships and set a European record in the bench press. At the World Championships in 2017, I managed 220 kilos in the under 105 kilo category. That's 231 pounds category. The same category the Europeans, when I managed 223 kilos in the bench press. So to summarize my bench press journey, when I was 16, I did 102.5 kilos in the 90 kilo category. And in 2017, I did 223 kilos in the 105 kilo category. So when 2018 came around, I was the European champion and I was runner-up at the Worlds. So I obviously wanted to defend my title as a European champion, and I wanted really bad to win the World Championships. I started off the year by competing at the Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio in the bench press, and a couple of months later it was the Worlds in Finland. I had known about the Worlds in Finland for 3 years, actually since I competed as a junior in the Worlds in 2015. So in 3 years' time I had all my focus on that World Championship. Worlds in Finland for me was probably the biggest anticlimax competition I've done. I was in great shape and I was really strong, but then and there I couldn't perform on that day and finished 5th place. I managed 225 kilos, which was a European record when I lifted it, but at the same competition it got beaten by another European, so I also lost my European record that competition. So after the Worlds in Finland, I wanted to step up my game, so I started training harder, started training more, and started training heavier, what led to an injury. So at the European Championships, 3 months after Worlds, I hadn't trained for over a month and I was in terrible shape and I knew I was going to lose my title. But I actually managed to get a bronze medal with 212.5 kilos. And the fall after that was just awful. I thought the shoulder was going to get better when I took a couple of months off benching and doing rehab, but it never got better. I think it went 6 months and it never got better. So I got the cortisone shot in the shoulder, and after it took 3 weeks and I was back at it. I started to train with just 5 months left to the World Championships, and 5 months is a lot of time, but if you haven't been able to train in 6 months, it's not as much time as you would like to have. So I started back at zero to get in shape for these 5 months for the Worlds. A lot of people didn't think I was going to come back from this injury. They thought that I was 26 years old, I had a good run, and I was going to satisfy myself with that. Because in sports, if you're in a sport with no money and you get injured for a long time and you had a good run at it, a lot of people quit. But for me, this is a passion, and I hadn't accomplished my goals in the sport. I knew I wasn't going to win the Worlds in 2019 in Japan, because when I was injured, the other guys were training. So under these 5 months, I needed to get back in shape and get better than I was before, and that's a pretty hard task. I managed to place 5th. I did 235 kilos. That was a PR for me in competition with 10 kilos from the year before. After Worlds, it was 3 months to the European Championship, and I knew that I could win that, and I did the same stupid mistake that I did after Finland. I started to train harder and more often, and my other shoulder was injured. It took me 9 months to recover from that injury. Under these 9 months, I didn't lose any weight, but the measurement around my chest went down 15 centimeters. And after 9 months of rehabbing, resting, doing everything in my way, it was a cortisone shot that solved this problem as well. So a cortisone shot, 3 weeks rest, and back at it. So now I've been going at it for 6 months, and I'm getting stronger month by month. And now I'm starting to smash some old rep PRs in the bench press, so stronger than ever, and my nearest goal is to break my old PRs, and after that going for that world title again and maybe chasing a world record.
So what's your advice to young boys and girls out there that want to become stronger?
I would say first and foremost that technique is the most important thing. Of course, in every sport, it always comes down to the technique, and after that is just training. And don't rush things. Don't do as I did, because it would just bite you in the ass in the end. To take it slow and have a progression every year, and don't have years that you're mostly injured. Jag vill att du tar en bild sen när jag sitter så här med allt ljus, så ska jag lägga upp en story där jag skriver spelar in en video om ifall man tar ketchupen eller senapen först.